everybody. How you doing? Happy hump day, if it's hump day where you are. It is here in the very vitamin D deficient Pacific Northwest. Rainy day again today. I hope you guys can hear me. Let me know. I've had some audio issues lately, but I'm trying this new headset and it seems to be working okay. So let me know. I don't see anybody in here yet, so I'll start just talking about the topics that I had planned to talk about. By the way, guys, this is being offered in the big group this week. Oh, hi, Christopher. Thank you. In the big group this week, just to give you guys a sample of what I do for the subscription members every week. I do this every Friday for the subscription group, and they can submit their questions any way they want to. They can join me on the live, or they can submit their questions on a post or in a submission form from the website. So anyway, so I'll just go ahead and start talking about the topics that I had announced. I wanted to say a little bit about what I'm discovering about heartworm. I belong to a heartworm Facebook group, and so there's always, of course, topics coming up there that are worthy of further investigation that nobody else is doing, unfortunately, because people there, it's a very mainstream, normie type of group, and people there, when they want to have information that they regard to be really solid to pass along to people, they will post information that appears on the Heartworm Society website, which, of course, the Heartworm Society is in the business of continuing the business of heartworm treatments and processing and, lab work processing and all of that. They are, it's very obvious from their website, they don't hide the fact that they are a front for pharmaceutical companies. They list their sponsors right there with the logos on their sponsors page. So anyway, their motives are very clear. So anyway, I decided to just delve into the heartworm topic, and I'm not quite to the end of the rabbit hole on this one, but I know that I'm on the right track. Because I'm seeing all the signs of a big pharma scare campaign. People are always asking if you're going to forego the treatments, or not the treatments, but they actually are treatments. They're not preventatives at all, but they call them preventatives. If you're going to forego those, should you test your dog? And I don't test my dog. I wouldn't dream of doing that. I don't recommend testing for anybody. I recommend that people get their dogs on an appropriate, a biologically appropriate diet ASAP, just in case. I don't know if that would always be the case. If there's a case of full-blown worms in the heart, I don't know if anything can save the dog, but if there is something that's going to cost the dog a little toxicity that will get rid of a full-blown infestation in the heart, then that might be a different situation. But we're not talking about that. We are talking about showing up positive in a test. And what you find out about the tests when you go looking is that they are, of course, not perfect. In fact, the one study that I saw on the NIH website said, depending on prevalence, the positive predictive value of the heartworm antigen test, and that is sometimes called the ELISA test, ELISA, which is what I Googled to get this, ranged from 15 to 54%, which, if you think about it, that's much worse than just flipping a coin. So that lots of room for error there. So that means it gives lots of false positives. The negative predictive value was much higher, but I don't know where they get the next sentence, which says for a hospital testing 1,000 dogs per year, false positive test results may vary from 24 to 27 dogs. Those 24 to 27 dogs, I don't know how they figure that math, because that doesn't work. It doesn't compute in my mind. But even the 24 to 27 would be treated with poisons. And of course, they wouldn't need it. No dog needs it, especially just based on a one of these tests. So I mean, this is really an invention, another invention of big pharma. Um, if you look at the heartworm incidence map, and I looked at one just a few minutes ago because I wanted to confirm in my mind what the average over the entire United States, what the average incidence rate is based just on the test, coming up positive in the test, is 1.3%. And when wild dogs are tested, whether they're truly wild living dogs or feral dogs or city dogs or dogs that come in that are owned by people, come into a clinical setting, it's always more than 2%. So that means, for all we know, this microfilaria that they're testing for could be normal residents of the canine body, just like streptococci is in us. We carry yeast around in us all of the time. It's always there, ready to proliferate if the terrain supports it, just like streptococci and many, many other forms of bacteria that we carry around all the time that are found in asymptomatic people. But when the person is asymptomatic, they are said to be not susceptible. Well, there's a problem there, because nobody's asking the question, how do I make myself not susceptible? And that's where the answers lie. That's why nobody in the medical field, especially the veterinary field, is asking that question. So the point is, if a microbe proliferates, it's because a banquet of waste is being offered for it to feast upon. And all you have to do is take the food supply away, and the parasite has to go with it, because food supply in all life forms determines population. That's all big life forms, little life forms, more food, more population. Always works that way, even when they're tiny, 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 tiny little life forms. But I posted and there's another article here too that I want to read a little bit to you about. But I posted a little report. I think it was a video report. A YouTube thing on the private group a few days ago about coyotes. Right now in, I think it's Mendocino County. I'm not sure. It's a suburb of San Francisco. It's kind of like an island, like a little peninsula type thing, and they're being inundated with coyotes, and the people are losing their pets to coyotes, so they want to start killing them. They want to start calling in the federal snipers and have them killed. And the city council is considering that right now. Well, these are dogs, and there are pictures of them, lots of video of them. These are dogs that are living on pets. They live on cat food that's left out for pets, human garbage, whatever they can find. I imagine they forage for fruit a lot. And they still, despite never being treated for heartworm, all of that, eating garbage, not being treated, or using any preventative for heartworm, they're still overpopulating to the point where they have to be killed. They're causing a problem for the citizens. That's a problem. If you're thinking, like I am, that the vets are telling people that this is a deathly threat to their dogs, to try and get them to buy these drugs, there's something a little wonky there. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, that's just crazy. Now this article, it's very, very hard to find information that is critical of this heartworm nonsense online. But I found one article, and it says it's on a terrier website. It says Almost everything you have been told and taught about heartworm is probably an exaggeration or an outright lie, and this misinformation is probably costing you more money than it needs to. Well, money is just part of it. It's costing your dog, too. It's costing your dog their health. He says, here's the truth. Heartworm is not a canine pandemic. In fact, heartworm is pretty rare in much of the country, and in very cold areas of the country, a veterinarian may go his or her entire career without seeing a single case. You can look at the map and check out your state. What he says here is data on heartworm incidence rate at the local level reinforces how rare heartworm really is. For example, California is coded red hot with 500 cases, and yet when a total of 44,350 dogs in LA County were tested, only 18 heartworm positive tests turned up. And yet veterinarians are training their staffs not to talk about heartworm tests and medications as an option, but as a need, and as in this needs to be given. Bombarded to the customer 3 to 5 times per office visit. That's the office visit. That's the recommendation. And he has a link. And there is a veterinary website called, I think it's called DVM 360 or something. And they're all about coaching vets on how to increase compliance. And they just hammer vets with this information. So he goes on and talks a little bit more about the the ways that you can treat your dog if they are found to be positive. He's pretty middle of the road compared to my take on heartworm. But the other thing that I wanted to tell you, let me just check here. There was one other thing. Oh, dang. Anyway, it'll probably come to me later. Shoot, I told you about the testing, predictability, and the heartworm article. Okay, I guess that's all I had. There was one other thing, but it was only in my head. It was not written down here, so I left my head. Okay, so I'll go on to the next topic. If you guys have any questions about heartworm, by the way, please let me know. What test is more conclusive for heartworm? I don't recommend any testing, so I'm not an expert on testing. There is apparently one test that they do, and then there's another test that can be more accurate. I don't know why they wouldn't do that one to begin with. It's kind of like if you want to know about these things, you have to have gone to vet school, but by the time you go to vet school, you're like brainwashed. So I'm not an expert on that, which tests are more conclusive, but the ELISA test is the one that is used a lot, and that's the one that has the false positive rate that I mentioned, which is 85% down to 46% or something. I'm not good with math. Sorry, guys. Anyway, so the next, oh, good job. The next topic came up on the big group, and somebody asked about making smoothies for their dog, and I get this question now and then. She says, my dog won't eat fruit, but when I made a smoothie for him, he lapped it right up. Well, here's what I think is possibly going on there. Dogs don't have quite the concentration of taste buds that we do. So increasing the surface area of the food would allow more flavor to be sensed by the dog. So there might be that going on. It might actually be that the dog in question knows that they're going to be able to digest it easier if its surface area has been greatly increased. And let me just explain by surface area. When you take, like if you cut an apple in half and you set it on a counter, that surface area there is going to be turning brown very shortly. But if you take that same apple and maybe put a little bit of liquid in there in the blender so that the blade will move, and you blend it, and then you pour it out on your counter, you'll see that the surface area of the food is exponentially increased. And what that does is it makes all of those molecules exposed to the air, which means that they're going to decompose much quicker, which means they're going to be unrecognizable to some extent. Well, so here's the thing. When humans, some purists will say, oh, don't ever do that. Don't ever drink smoothies because of this oxidation issue, this decomposition issue. But it is a little more inconclusive with dogs because they are not set up to make maximum use of plant foods like we are, especially fruit. They don't have the sacculated colons. They don't have the surface area in their teeth to chew with. And there are many other features of our bodies that they are missing so that they can't make maximum use of plant foods. So for them, it could be actually a benefit that would exceed the disadvantage of the decomposed molecules. So I don't think we can ever know the answer to that question, whether there is more benefit than cost to the dog. But I think the only way that you can know is just if you want to feed smoothies to your dog, you can do that kind of as a transitional thing. A lot of people do it as a transitional thing. And if you ever happen to notice a symptom after you're feeding a smoothie or blended foods to your dog, then you would want to just feed them whole fruit because, after all, we do see wolves eating fruit in the whole form. We don't see them eating blended foods. So it's all about gains versus losses, and we don't know. We just don't know for sure. So I hope that gives you some guidance there. Let me see. There were a couple more questions, and then I'll get to your questions here, if you have any. Let me see here. Okay, next question. This came across the private group, so I won't say the dog name. My dog just won't gain weight. He eats 5 meat days, 2 plant days, 4% body weight, 1 year on RMF. He lost 3 pounds from his original weight of 13 pounds. He lives for mealtime. I feed him beef heart, chicken hearts, quail, smelt, lentils, split peas, quinoa, sweet potatoes, other high protein, beans and bones, some dried liver treats, and I upped his percentage. I don't understand why he doesn't gain. He still weighs 10.4 pounds, 3.5 pounds less than when starting RMF a year ago. Without his curly coat, he would be skin and bones. Are there other high-calorie foods I can feed? To ease husband's anxiety, I promised I would not fast him again until he gained weight. He's an itchy dog who still chews, licks, paws, and scratches ears on carpet and grass, but ears are perfectly clear. Doesn't scoot as much, but still does some. Poop is fine. Suggestions. Well, I would say losing 25% of the body of a dog's body weight after starting RMF is extremely common, if not obligatory. And we don't usually hear that it's normal to lose 30% of your body weight or your dog's body weight when you start a diet, and that's basically starting from normalcy, what's considered to be normal, because most people carry that 30% of extra tissue around, or fat, whatever blubber you want to, or whatever you want to call it, on their bodies, and they don't understand the connection between that and their diseases and their diets, and how they're all connected, and how if they figured out the diet part, they wouldn't have that extra fat, and they also wouldn't have the symptoms, the diseases. So that's what we're doing with RMF. We're doing the dog equivalent in RMF. I would ask you, if you were here, I would ask you when you increased his percentage, because if you just did that recently, then you wouldn't be seeing weight gain right away. It's going to take a while for that to happen. But you can definitely go higher than 4% if you want to. I just caution you because you might have to get to a point where you will have to choose between a dog that is skinnier than you and your husband would like him to be, and a dog that sits around and chews on himself all the time and scratches and whatnot. And you might already be into that area, that overfeeding area, if the dog is still symptomatic after a year. So most dogs that I hear this complaint about, or I get this question about, that I can actually see are perfectly proportioned dogs. So, people don't like reaching out and touching a bony dog, and I understand that. If I was a groomer, I sure as heck wouldn't like grooming bony dogs because there's all kinds of little sharp areas that you can run into that aren't there when a dog is nice and roly-poly. And let's face it, when we reach our hand out to pet our dog, we don't want to touch something hard. We want something squishy like a teddy bear. So I know that it's a bit of a paradigm shift, especially for the males among us, I must say. But it just comes down to a choice, and it's a choice you'll have to make eventually, and it's completely 100% your choice to make. You can absolutely have a pudgy dog if you want to. Absolutely. No problem at all. He will be in good company because almost every dog on earth is pudgy. The ones that belong to Americans anyway. So I don't know of any other high-calorie foods you can feed. Those should be perfectly suitable, but you can definitely take the percentage higher if you want to. Just be on the lookout for those symptoms, especially scooting. Scooting typically goes away with fasting or tweaking the quantity downward. So, okay, next question. There was a question on the big group, or actually I don't remember where this question came from, about essential oils, yay or nay. Well, it's so interesting to research this topic because if you try to find out, if you just do a general search on, say, vaccines or antibiotics, and you say, are antibiotics harmful, or if you say, are vaccines harmful, you will get pages and pages of no, it's absolutely safe, don't worry about it. Try doing that with something that the pharmaceutical industry regards as a bit of a threat, and that would be essential oils would be one of those. Because if you do that, you get all kinds of truth about essential oils. The difference between somebody who's looking at this list of keyword results from a pharmaceutical point of view, who wants to shoot down essential oils, and myself, is I will shoot down the essential oils, but I will also shoot down the pharmaceuticals. I want objectivity, and neither pharmaceutical remedies nor essential oil based remedies do anything except further pollute the body, unfortunately. So I tipped my hand a little bit there. But it's kind of interesting the way these oils are being marketed, and whoever decided that they would be called essential oils is nothing less than a gimmickry genius, because essential in this context just means containing the essence or the scent of the herb, the flower, whatever is being used. But essential also means vitally important, as in essential fatty acids. Well, they're not vitally important. They're not important at all, unless you happen to be making a living selling them. Then they're really important. But what you have to understand is that when a symptom is stopped, and these essential oils are used topically, and the two ways that they're used mostly is topically and as diffused into the air. And it probably has been shown in some tests to stop symptoms. It has been shown to kill certain bacteria. The problem with that is that when you stop a symptom, regardless of what it is, you're stopping the body from doing what it intended to do with the symptom. And an example would be, and I don't even know if an essential oil has ever been used for this purpose, but if you're in a room with, say, peppermint being diffused into the air, and you find that your sinuses clear up, and maybe that's been found in a test. I don't know. This is just an example. Well, what do you think was happening with that stuff that was coming through your sinuses in the first place? That it was mucus, and mucus is a transport medium for waste. So it was your body pushing waste out. And what happened when your body breathed in these peppermint molecules is that it had to shut that process down, because it then had to direct its attention to protecting itself from lungs being damaged by this particulate matter coming in. So what do you think happened to the waste? Of course, the waste will stay in. It's like, example I was thinking of is like if you're cleaning your house and you're being super productive, you're feeling like you're accomplishing so much, but there's a knock on the door, and there goes my dog, and it's your neighbor, and she says, my bathroom or my basement's flooding. Can you come help me bail water? So you go next door and help your neighbor bail water. When you come back to the house, your house is going to be in the same way that you left. It's going to be needing more cleaning because you weren't finished when you left, right? So nothing happened while you were gone. Some little elves didn't come along and clean your house for you. It's still going to be dirty. And it's the same with your body. You shut the process down. Now, these are constructive symptoms that I'm talking about. There are other examples of symptoms that are more chronic or more protective or compensation type of symptoms, like when you have a valve that's malfunctioning in the heart and it allows fluid through and fluid gets into the lungs. Well, the veterinary solution to that is to cut off the fluids. So a vet might recommend diuretics. Well, what diuretics do is they force fluids out of the body, and they deprive the body of the fluids that it needs for vital functions. So that's a great cost to the body. That's really a harmful thing to do to the body. And there's all kinds of things that diuretics are prescribed for, of course. But further proof of how ineffectual remedies are for healing the body is when you have a situation that's external, that's visible, like burns or lacerations to the skin. It's kind of interesting that medicine has come up with so many remedies that are supposed to heal our insides, but they've come up with pretty much nothing when it comes to healing a laceration or healing a burn. Everybody knows who works in a burn unit that all you can do is, they're caught up in all of this sterility stuff, this germ ritual thing that they do, but they also support the body. They have found ways to make the patient more comfortable, to keep them out of pain, but that's all they can do while the body heals itself. And it's the same with these incremental injuries that happen on the inside. We can be lied to about that because we can be told when a symptom stops or when it's replaced by a side effect that that's a sign that we've been healed. They don't really say that anymore. They don't have the audacity to say that anymore. But they can, at least claim that they've done you a favor. They stopped your original symptom. So you have to stop the cause of disease. If you get in a car wreck and you get really messed up, the car wreck's over. What's going to happen from then on is healing. If you have somebody who's drinking alcohol, you can't just hand them a cup of coffee and sober them up if they're going to continue drinking alcohol. The coffee may counteract some of the effects, the sedative effects of the alcohol, but it's only going to further intoxicate the person, and the person will still be intoxicated. What you have to do is cut off the alcohol, right? You have to cut off the source of the disease. So, these compounds that occur in plants and that are highly concentrated in essential oils are harmful to the body. They truly are. The liver has the job of neutralizing them when they get introduced to the body, whether it's topically through the skin or breathed in through the lungs. It still falls on the liver, and I just can't give my blessing to something like that. And if you have a cat in the room and you're diffusing these essential oils, those things will build up on the skin, and they'll be actually eating them when they lick their fur. So, okay, so and by the way, they are said to kill bacteria. So that tells you something right there. I mean, you can't condemn antibiotics because they kill bacteria and then say that it's okay to kill bacteria by some other means, because you can't just kill bacteria. You kill living cells whenever you put something into the body that kills bacteria. You don't want to kill the bacteria anyway. You want to figure out what they're doing there and deprive them of their food supply, and then they just have to leave voluntarily. It's like when, you go to an orchard and you eat every single apple there and there's no apples left, you got to move on, find another orchard. It's the same with bacteria. Sorry, these examples I'm using are really simplistic today, but I think that was all the questions I had. I did want to bring to your attention the story that was in the news lately. I don't know if you guys saw it. I shared it in the private group about the dog, or maybe I shared it in the big group too. I don't remember. But about the dog in Turkey that was pulled from the rubble after 23 days. So he was just found like a couple of days ago, and the quake happened. I don't know when it was. It was like at least 23 days ago, three or 4 weeks ago. Anyway, he was in the rubble without food or water or sunlight for 23 days. And of course, he's in the videos. They show video of him. He doesn't look very skinny. He's lapping up water. He's super thirsty, but he doesn't look any worse for his ordeal. And it's kind of interesting because we see these stories all the time about dogs, getting lost, but nobody ever says how long they've gone without food, or nobody ever really knows, because dogs can go missing for long periods of time, but you never know when they're gone if somebody's fed them or if they managed to get their hands on some kibble that was left out for the cat or whatever. But anyway, it reminded me of a story that I read in a dog health book recently about a gal who went on vacation for 2 weeks, and she had some chickens, and she apparently got to her destination, and her neighbor called and said, "Hey, your garage door's open," and she realized that she had forgotten to close it or something. So she sent her neighbor over to close the garage door, and one of her chickens had gotten inside, and she arrived home 2 weeks later to find this chicken in the middle of the garage, and he was very weak, and he was dehydrated, of course, but what I forgot to tell you, this is a punchline. I forgot to tell you the punchline. He was crippled. It was a rooster that was crippled before she went on vacation, and she came back, and he had not had food or water or light for 2 weeks, and he was extremely weak. But she gradually refed him, and he became strong again, and he was no longer crippled. Isn't that amazing? All that time as a cripple, and all he needed was a 2-week fast, and he was cured of his lameness. Okay, so now I'll get to your questions, guys. Let me just read them first. I don't really have enough information to answer your question, Andrea, it says, what would you recommend if a cat is not able to walk much anymore? You don't say how old he is or how much you're feeding him or what you're feeding him. You've been feeding raw since 2019. You've made huge mistakes. I don't know what the mistakes are. Maybe they're, treating the cat with these preventatives. I don't know. There's all kinds of factors that could cause that. And I'm really not in the business of diagnosing. We don't know how to get our cats eating hearts and bones. Only chicken and fish they want. We're so desperate. I would say you could read the blog article that I have on the website about transitioning cats and see if you can use some of those strategies to get some bones into them. There's nothing special about hearts. I know heart meat, heart tissue is a very mineral-rich food. It's very nutrient-rich. So presumably it's got lots of taurine in it too. If you're suspecting taurine deficiency, and it looks like you are, and possibly it is a calcium deficiency if they won't eat bones. But you can try grinding. I think you need to find some way of getting bones into them for sure. So you might have to use some of those strategies, and one might be going all the way back to feeding some kind of commercial canned food or something, because with cats you have to do that, because you have to start small, and if there's a big problem, then you have to be willing to go to make some compromises. But if I had a cat with a really serious sudden issue like not being able to walk on their hind legs, I would get a diagnosis. I would try to see what I'm dealing with. I don't think you can assume that it's some kind of deficiency unless you know that there's not something mechanically wrong or the cat hasn't been injured or whatever. Looks like you have 3 cats, and you said something about how the other 2 are doing. 3 Maine Coon. 1 is all okay, but the 2 have the same parents, are very weak. Oh, that's interesting. If you say that to a vet, they're going to try and land on something that is genetic. So I would only take 1 cat in, and I wouldn't say anything about the other cat. And just, it's always better to let vets work with whatever objective, independent information they have, instead of giving them too many clues, because then they start going down the genetic rabbit hole, and then you're just looking at remedies. They're just going to try and fix it with drugs or whatever. You gave herbs and it made it worse. Yeah, I found that too when I was nursing a sick kitty. I was desperate enough, this was 15 years ago or so, I was desperate enough to try an herbal compound, and he just immediately got worse. So anyway, do you guys have any other questions? Maybe this is a bad time for everybody, kind of in the middle of the day, in the middle of the week, huh? Yeah, the pharmaceutical industry runs Google, for sure. So anyway, well, guys, that's 38 minutes. Usually try to go a little bit longer, but I thought I would get more questions here. So if you're interested, oh, Jasmine has a question, so I'll answer this. What's your take on hypoglycemia in small puppies? I'm curious because when my little one came home, I waited till she was 5 months to go full RMF because I was afraid of that situation happening. When I say that I mean supplemented with NutriCal. Well, I think that is legitimate in misweaned puppies, because I actually had that happen to me myself once. It was probably about 18 years ago or something. I had a gal called me who needed boarding for her new puppy. She didn't tell me her puppy weighed 3 pounds and had very little fur, had been losing fur, so was obviously misweaned. Her name was Doo-Doo. She was 8 weeks old, and she was probably sick when she came to me. She was very cold. She was shivering. She had hardly any fur. And I was just starting to discover fasting. So I thought, okay, I'll just fast her and I'll make sure that she gets water. So I gave her some water in a dropper. But she was not reviving. She was not coming back. I had to take her in and actually get her some fluids and some intravenous feeding. They fed her somehow. I don't know how they fed her, but anyway, she survived, of course. But I think that this hypoglycemia in tiny puppies, especially when they're misfed from the get-go, can be a bit of an issue. So it's just another reason, to not fast puppies, although, in properly weaned puppies like wolves are, there's no danger. There's no danger at all. And there's no danger in fasting healthy puppies that come to you that you want to start RMF with. If you want to fast them for a day, there's no danger with that either. But for more than a day, if you got a sickly puppy or a puppy that has been misweaned, it's probably better to administer some kind of sugar source like coconut water or some kind of fruit juice. And there might be something on the market that's acceptable for that purpose. I don't know what NutriCal is. I guess it's a human, some kind of nutrient supplemental liquid or something. Anyway, I have a new puppy coming home this month, and I don't want to supplement if it's not necessary. So I guess I'm wondering if it would be okay to supplement with NutriCal. I wouldn't do that. NutriCal is, if it's what I think it is, it's completely fake, manufactured stuff. Yeah, like sugar. And a lot of people who will tell you about this problem of hypoglycemia in puppies will tell you to give the puppy sugar water or honey water or something like that, not understanding that kind of sugar is different from the kind of sugars that could actually be made use of by the puppy's body, which would be coconut water or fruit juice. So, I mean, if you want to do that, I don't think there's really any reason to do that. Maybe for a tiny little puppy, tiny puppy, but I fasted I don't think I did fast my puppy when I first got her. I think I fed her right away. But I don't think it would be a problem. And if you did want to just be sure that it wouldn't be a problem, that hypoglycemia wouldn't be a problem, you could give some kind of fruit juice. So, I got another question here. So I'd be better off giving her a singe of my fresh pressed juice. Yeah, absolutely. I think so. NutriCal is a supplement sold by vets for dogs that won't eat. Completely commercial. Yeah, I wouldn't feed that stuff. Ew. No. It's going to be barely 3 pounds. Yeah. Well, you don't have to fast her. You never have to fast a dog first off. You can give her plant foods. And even if you were very inclined to fast, but you wanted to be absolutely safe, you could do the fruit juice thing. So, okay. Charlie will turn 8 this year. This thing's bouncing around on me again. Vets didn't find injury. They guessed tick bite and wanted to give meds and stuff, testing if on pain meds he will feel better, but we refused. What was the injury? Was he like limping or something? Well, I guess I would need to know what your symptoms were, or what his symptoms were. You definitely did the right thing refusing the meds, unless he is in pain. He's in obvious pain and you want to manage the pain. But if they even suspect, if they even hear that word tick, they're going to be giving you all kinds of nasty stuff that's not going to help the situation. Oh boy. This is crazy. thing just keeps jumping around. Okay. Well, every time somebody comments, the thing jumps, and I'm trying to read it, but I'm not getting any more info from Andrea. So, oh, he has stiff hind legs. He's not jumping anymore. Have you? I'm wondering if you've fasted him. And, in order to kind of evaluate a situation like that, I would need lots of information. It's not like I would diagnose anything. All I would do is look at what you're feeding and see if there's something that jumps out at me. And I would make recommendations based on what I would do. So, stiff hind legs, that could be an injury, for all I know. So, I mean, that's all I can say is I'd need to look at all the various factors and see if there's anything in his lifestyle that would cause a problem like that, feeding wise, because I don't do anything else. I don't like evaluate injuries or anything like that. There's another question here. I just fasted Ted, which is a kitty cat, for 3 days. I think this was the third of the 3-day fast we've done and the longest we've done with her. Usually we just do at least 1-day fast every week. If I try a 5-day, do you think there is anything to watch for that might be concerning with fasting cats to where I should stop and feed her? No, I don't really think that there's, beyond, if the cat just drops over and becomes unresponsive, I suppose, but what are you going to do in that situation? The cat's not going to be eating. I don't want to make you think that that's a possibility. I'm just thinking there's nothing that would really motivate me legitimately to feed a cat if I'm fasting him or her to try and deal with some kind of issue. I fasted my own cat for the longest fast was 6 days. And he's 12 now. I started fasting him probably around 5 years ago. And the second time I fasted him, he was walking across the room and he just fell over. And that freaked me out. I'd never seen my cat fall over before. I'd never seen any cat fall over before. So I thought, oh no, he's weak. It even, got into my head that maybe I should feed him. And I did. Well, that was, I think, day 5. And then the next couple of times that I fasted him, that didn't happen. And we went to day 6. And he got, the symptoms that I was fasting him for, which is this leaky eye. He's got a leaky eye. And he sneezes sometimes. Got much better during the fast. So, I can't think of anything that would motivate you legitimately to end a fast. It's always legitimate if you're frightened, if you're scared, if you're concerned for any reason whatsoever. It's always legitimate to just end the fast because you can always do another one later on. You can build up. It's as much a building process in your psyche as it is in the dog's ability or the cat's ability to fast in their body. So thank you so much. Can I PM you with more information, please? Well, I think you probably need to be a member of the private group to do that because I have so many members here on the big group that if I started doing that, and I do occasionally, so you can do that if you want to, but I'm just like super busy. I do consultations if you want to go over everything. Let me see, this thing's bouncing around on me again. Kelly says, it's hard for vets to diagnose soft tissue injury, especially with stoic dogs who hide pain in front of strangers. I think what's happening with the stoicism thing that we're always being told that dogs are stoic, right? They hide their pain. They might do that as a defense because they communicate with other dogs. They don't want to communicate their weakness to another dog because that gives the other dog the opportunity, the upper hand. So they might do that. But I think another reason in that situation is they're just too stressed to worry about their pain. They're more worried about their future because they know they're in a vet's office and the good things don't happen there. So, anyway. Okay, I think that's it for today, you guys. Like I said, I do this every week in the private group. So if you like what you've heard, if you want to hear more of this kind of out-of-the-box thinking, please consider joining the subscription group. It's very affordable. We make it as affordable as we possibly can without letting every troll in the universe in. So please check that out on the website. And if you have any other questions, post them on the group. Or join the group and ask me personally. So, all right, that's it for today, you guys. Have a good rest of your week, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.